The Berkshire Academy lay on the quiet outskirts of Boston's western hills, a fortress of stone and ivy where old money breathed through Gothic towers and whispered rules governed everything unseen. Here, wealth was a language spoken fluently, and power moved like an invisible hand, silent, absolute, unquestioned. Lynn Wanching never expected to belong here. She arrived with a single suitcase, a scholarship letter folded carefully in her pocket, and a pair of canvas sneakers washed thin with time. Among students who arrived in chauffeurs' cars and wore tailored coats from European ateliers, she was an anomaly, an exchange student whose greatest treasure was a worn sketchbook in a small, neglected art studio once used by her late mother. Her plan was simple: survive 1 year quietly, disappear without leaving a trace. Then she collided with Karen van der Berg. He was stepping out of a black Maybach when it happened. Rain had been falling relentlessly that afternoon, drenching the stone paths and blurring the edges of the world. Lynn ran through the courtyard, clutching her sketchboard to her chest, desperate to save the painting stored in the old studio before water leaked through the cracked windows. She didn't see him until it was too late. The impact knocked her backward. Rain splashed. Her breath caught. Before her stood a man sculpted by cold precision. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a custom charcoal suit now stained with rain. His blonde hair gleamed faintly under the gray sky, and his eyes, steel blue, sharp and distant, fixed on her with unreadable intensity. Karen van der Berg. The uncrowned king of Berkshire. "I'm so sorry," Lynn blurted out, panic rising. "I wasn't looking." "Compensation," he said calmly. His voice was low, controlled, utterly merciless. She froze. "You damaged my suit," he continued. "If you can't pay with money, you'll repay me with time." That was how her life changed. From the next morning onward, a black Maybach waited outside her dormitory at precisely 7:30. She was escorted to class, seated at a private dining table during meals, and summoned whenever Karen wished. Her schedule, her movements, even her painting hours were dictated by him. "From now on," he told her one evening, fingers lifting her chin with quiet dominance, "your time belongs to me." Lynn hated it. She resisted in every way she could. Attempted escapes that ended with discreetly intervening security, silent rebellions that were swiftly countered. When she refused to attend dinner, her sketchboard was locked away in his private cabinet. When she skipped a scheduled meeting, he appeared unannounced at her studio doorway. "You don't get to decide until the debt is repaid," he said coldly. Yet beneath the control, cracks began to show. On nights she painted until her hands trembled, warm milk and blankets appeared without explanation. When classmates mocked her background, those voices disappeared from campus within days. When she cried quietly over her mother's memory, Karen stood stiffly beside her, unsure how to comfort, yet unwilling to leave. "I'm here," he said once, awkward and sincere. "No one will hurt you." At the winter formal, Lynn stood on the sidelines, invisible once more. Until Karen took her hand and led her out of the hall, straight into a private jet bound for New York. A gown of moon-white silk was crafted for her overnight. When she returned to the ballroom, gasps followed her every step. Karen watched her from across the room, his gaze fierce and unyielding, as if the entire world had narrowed to her presence alone. Somewhere between resistance and reliance, Lynn's heart shifted. She learned his habits, his silences, the way his eyes softened only when watching her paint. He learned hers: no cilantro, sleepless nights, the way she frowned in concentration. But love built on force is never without thorns. Karen's mother, elegant and merciless, confronted Lynn with words colder than winter steel. "You do not belong in my son's world," she said. "Leave him." Doubt consumed Lynn. "Was I ever more than something you owned?" she asked Karen, voice trembling. His composure shattered. "I never owned you," he said fiercely, pulling her into his arms. "I was afraid. Afraid you'd disappear. Afraid I'd lose you." For the first time, she saw his vulnerability. And then, he chose her. Publicly. Irrevocably. He announced their engagement. Transferred assets into her name. Held her hand before family, before the academy, before the world. "She is my future," he said. "And I will not let anyone take her from me." At graduation, beneath a sky washed gold with summer light, Karen stood before the entire campus. "Before you," he said, eyes locked on Lynn, "my world was black and white. You gave it color. I give you everything." Their love, born from force and fear, transformed into trust and devotion. They watched sunrises by the Charles River, walked the canals of Amsterdam. and stood hand in hand beneath the lights of Paris. Like moonlight tangled in thorns, their love endured, sharp, radiant, and undeniably real. Yet love, once declared to the world, did not suddenly become simple. After graduation, Berkshire Academy loosened its grip on them, but the Vanderburg family tightened theirs. The ivory tower had been a controlled battlefield, the real world was far less forgiving. Lynn Wanching moved into Karen's Boston residence shortly after commencement, a historic townhouse overlooking the Charles River, renovated with minimalist precision. Marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a silence that felt almost reverent. It intimidated her more than the academy ever had. She kept her habits small and careful. Shoes lined neatly by the door. Sketchbooks stacked beside the window. She painted late into the night, afraid that if she stopped, the world she'd stepped into might swallow her whole. Karen noticed everything. "You don't have to shrink here," he told her one evening, watching her tuck herself into the corner of the sofa. "This is your home too." She smiled, unconvinced. His protectiveness, once subtle, became sharper outside the academy's walls. Drivers followed at a distance. Security checked locations. Meetings were screened before she was ever mentioned. "You're hovering," she said softly one night. "I'm ensuring you're safe," he replied, voice steady but eyes dark. "People will test boundaries now." "Or maybe," she countered, meeting his gaze, "you're afraid again." Silence stretched between them. "Yes," he admitted. "I am." The difference was that now, he listened. When Lynn was accepted into a prestigious European arts residency in Paris, a 6-month program, Karen's first instinct was refusal. His jaw tightened. His grip on the table sharpened. "You'll be gone," he said. "Alone." "I won't be alone," she replied gently. "I'll be becoming myself." The words unsettled him more than any rebellion ever had. That night, he didn't command. He didn't arrange alternatives. He simply asked, "Will you come back?" She stepped into his arms and answered honestly. "Only if you let me go." He did. Paris changed her. She painted streets soaked in dusk, lovers crossing bridges, loneliness framed by light. Her work grew bolder, freer. Her name began to circulate quietly in galleries. Karen flew in often, never announced, always waiting. He stood at the back of her exhibitions, watching strangers admire her world. Pride settled into him like something permanent. "You shine without me," he said once, half wondering. She took his hand. "I shine because you stopped holding me in the dark." Back in Amsterdam months later, at a private family estate overlooking the canals, Karen finally confronted his mother again. "She is not temporary," he said. "And neither is my choice." The older woman studied Lynn for a long moment, her calm posture, her steady gaze, the confidence that had replaced hesitation. Then, she said slowly, "Protect her without caging her." It was not approval. But it was permission. Years passed. They built a rhythm that belonged only to them. Boardrooms and studios, galas and quiet breakfasts, power balanced by trust. Karen learned to loosen his grip. Lynn learned she didn't need to disappear to be safe. On a spring morning in Paris, beneath soft sunlight and blooming trees, Karen knelt without spectacle. "No debts," he said. "No rules. Just me." She said yes. Their love was no longer forged in force, but in choice, again and again. And if traces of thorns remained, they only made the moonlight brighter.